Did you grow up in an abusive home, possibly with parents who were narcissists, or at least one parent who is a narcissist, and you have a sibling or siblings or other family members that also turned into narcissists, but you're not a narcissist? How is that possible? Does every person raised by a narcissist automatically become a narcissist? No, of course not. There are so many factors that come into play, but this is something that does come up a lot, this idea where people will think, well, what about me? My parents were abusive. I grew up with narcissists. I'm not a narcissist. Doesn't that refute the argument that you become a narcissist, or if you have abusive parents, you become a narcissist? Well, that's not true, because if that were the case, everybody would be a narcissist. There'd be no one who is a narcissist who ever came from an abusive family. So, of course, that is not always the case. It's like when you have to have the perfect blend. You have to put a recipe together and all the ingredients have to be there, and you're missing one ingredient and the bread doesn't rise, or the souffle caves in, only this is the flip side where it's more of a negative thing that takes place. So in order to become a narcissist, there's no exact science. There's no way if we could predict, we could prevent it. But there are certain themes, or there are certain patterns that seem to take place that sort of have to be in play for somebody to maybe have narcissistic traits more so than another person that was raised in the same family. So how that would work, sometimes there might be a bit in the wiring. There could be a difference in the way one sibling is raised as opposed to another. There could be a big age gap. There could be lots of different factors that took place in the family, so many different variables. One could be favored over the other. The one that became a narcissist might have been the golden child. They could do no wrong, and they were kind of an extension of that parent, and they learned from a very early age that they're going to get lots of attention if they continue to please that parent. And maybe the other one was a scapegoat. The problem is that why someone will become a narcissist as opposed to someone who doesn't is that they've internalized the abuse to such a degree that they honestly don't even see it. So they're the ones that at an older age, they might remain close with those parents. They might think their parents can do no wrong. They might idealize. Sometimes you'll hear people going, my parents were saints, and yet it was a horribly abusive environment. And you might have another sibling or another person who grew up in the same home that will tell you what a nightmare it was. So that one sibling, they're seeing it in a very different perspective. And maybe one person already has a bit less empathy, or they're treated differently, or they're the golden child, you're the scapegoat or the forgotten child. Sometimes what can happen is they could start as scapegoat and suddenly become the golden child, and they don't want to let go of that. So out of fear, they will internalize. The basic thing that happens is something breaks. Some kind of thing happens where that person loses their ability to self-reflect. Somehow they just almost lose their sense of self to the degree that they have so identified with that parent or parents that they no longer are their own person. They've taken on the traits, they've taken on the behaviors, and they'll be rewarded for that. So it's this positive reinforcement almost for being a certain way. Now, the person who isn't a narcissist might have an opposite reaction. I mean, they might be trying their damnedest. They might be trying to please that parent over and over again. No matter what they do, that parent is never happy. So again, there can be different things taking place in the same family that we don't have any exact way of. There's no way to predict. There's no way to say, gee, everyone who grows up in this particular scenario is going to become this certain way. There's a lot of things to back up the idea that how one person in the same family will become a narcissist and the other won't. And the narcissistic sibling might also abuse the other sibling. So that sort of puts them in favor of that parent as well. So you've got the person who's internalized the abuse, they're getting rewarded for being a certain way. Perhaps they're the golden child being put on a pedestal, and it's almost like they take over the abuse from the parent, or maybe they add to it in picking on that other sibling. And a lot of times it could be an older sibling, but not always. It could be a younger. Sometimes it could be a family where maybe there's a stepchild that is treated worse, and maybe the parent remarries, and so that their child, their biological child, is treated worse by the other parent or by the step siblings or the half siblings or whatever. Sometimes it just, again, could be the age gap. Sometimes it could be a parent who maybe at one point in their life was one way, and then something changed, or their life um, their circumstances changed, and now they're parenting very differently. So there's so many variables that take place, and it really is a microcosm. Just because you grow up in the same family doesn't mean everyone's experience is going to be exactly the same. In a family, it is almost a stand-in for the larger world. And so you can have different scenarios, you can have different viewpoints, you can have different ways of being, different experiences can all take place within the same family unit. So I hope that clears it up a bit. And please watch my other videos, particularly the one on how narcissists are created, not born, and as well as the difference between a psychopath and a narcissist, and the deeper dive into how narcissists become narcissists. And thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.